Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump heads to the Federal Reserve as tensions continue to flare over interest rates and renovation spending. Legendary WWE star Hulk Hogan has died at age 71. We have more details on Hogan's life and career coming up. A House panel votes to subpoena the DOJ and high-profile Democrats and Republicans over the Epstein files. Columbia University will pay over $200 million to resolve allegations that it discriminated against Jewish students. Where is the legal line between protest and anti-Semitism? We talked to a legal analyst. United Health is under a Justice Department investigation. The probe centers around the insurance company's Medicare Advantage plans. A fresh, uplifting vision in entertainment. We talked to the creators of the world's first streaming platform dedicated to uplifting traditional values.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. Legendary WWE star Hulk Hogan has died. The pro wrestler was 71 years old. Authorities responded to a call this morning in Clearwater, Florida about a cardiac arrest. Police said Hogan was pronounced dead at a hospital. Hogan, whose real name was Terry Bollea, was one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. A main draw for the first WrestleMania in 1985, Hogan became an icon in the WWE. Hogan faced off opponents like Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, The Rock, and even company chairman Vince McMahon. Hogan would win at least 6 WWE championships and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. WWE posted on X calling Hogan, quote, one of the pop culture's most recognizable figures. Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 1980s. WWE extends its condolences to Hogan's family, friends, and fans. With tensions running high, President Trump heads to the Federal Reserve today. The White House says Trump will visit the Fed at 4 p.m., but didn't say whether he'll meet with Chairman Jerome Powell. Trump on Tuesday called out Powell once again, saying he thinks Powell's done a bad job. The pair have clashed over interest rates. Trump wants them cut, saying high rates are making it tough for Americans to buy homes. White House officials have also criticized the Federal Reserve over its handling of renovations to 2 historic buildings in Washington, which have run $700 million over budget. The Fed responded to the criticism, saying that major systems in both buildings, whose construction dates back to the 1930s, are obsolete and need of replacement for health and safety reasons. A report by the Government Accountability Office released yesterday finds the Trump administration illegally froze federal funding for Head Start grant programs. The program provides education and health services to low-income children. The report says between January and April this year, the Department of Health and Human Services significantly reduced funding for the programs. According to the report, funds appropriated by Congress can only be suspended for emergency situations. While the funds have now been paid out, the watchdog says it will continue to monitor the ongoing legal process. A federal appeals court has ruled President Trump's order to end birthright citizenship in some cases unconstitutional. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a previous ruling that blocked the order from taking effect nationwide. The panel of judges voted 2-1 in favor of the earlier decision. The ruling preserves a nationwide injunction first issued by a federal judge in Seattle. The Supreme Court has since restricted the power of lower court judges to issue orders that affect the whole country, known as nationwide injunctions. But the Ninth Circuit said this case met an exception. The dissenting judge argued that states don't have the legal right to sue over the executive order. A man charged with attempting to assassinate President Trump last year at his Florida golf course returned to court today, once again seeking to represent himself. Ryan Ruth first made the request earlier this month during a hearing in Florida before federal judge Eileen Cannon. The request, made orally and under oath, came a day before Ruth submitted a typed letter. In the letter, he said that he and his attorneys were a million miles apart and that going forward he would represent himself. Ruth is scheduled to stand trial in September. The judge told Ruth earlier this month that she doesn't intend to delay the September 8th start date of his trial, even if she lets him represent himself. House lawmakers voted to subpoena the Justice Department to turn over Epstein files and for several high-profile figures, both Democrats and Republicans, to testify. This as the DOJ's Deputy Attorney General is meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell today. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more on the latest congressional action of the Epstein files.
Yesterday's vote was out of a House subcommittee. It targets the Justice Department as well as several high-profile Republicans and Democrats. For example, it subpoenas former President Bill Clinton, and then Republican Congressman Scott Perry also included a motion to subpoena many more high-profile Democrats and Republicans, like former Attorney General Bill Barr, as well as former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
They had a relationship with Maxwell. I don't know what that relationship was. I never thought that we would be questioning the Clintons and others on with respect to the Epstein files, but the Democrats voted in a bipartisan manner yesterday to do that.
There should definitely be a subpoena for those files. The decision was made to refuse to release the files, smacks of a cover-up.
Now, it was initially a Democrat motion that did get the support from a handful of Republicans on that panel. House Speaker Mike Johnson has repeatedly said that Republican leadership is for getting these files released, but that they want to do it the right way. Here's his response to critics who say that Republicans are working against the effort to get these files released.
But they deserve the space to do that in the way that it is supposed to be done, and they are. A thorough, judicious, meticulous review to truly protect innocent people who suffered.
Now, since this vote was just out of committee, the next step is to move it to the full floor for a vote, but we likely won't see any more action on this, at least for the next month, because lawmakers have left D.C. for their August recess. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
House Republicans are seeking to launch a new investigation into the January 6 Capitol breach. That's according to House Speaker Mike Johnson. The proposed panel would focus on security and intelligence failures and revisit how the first House investigation was handled. House Republicans say the original committee was politically driven and left out key facts. A vote on the resolution is expected after the August recess. It would fall under the authority of the House Judiciary Committee. A new task force is targeting the alleged weaponization of the intelligence community. The Justice Department says it will evaluate evidence made by Public Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the details.
The Justice Department yesterday announced the creation of a new task force to investigate claims of political abuse within the intelligence community. The move follows explosive allegations from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who unveiled findings during a White House briefing.
The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count.
Gabbard says there is irrefutable evidence that details how former President Obama and his national security team ordered the creation of an intelligence assessment they knew was false. Gabbard says a newly released report shows in great detail how they manufactured findings from what she called shoddy sources and suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. The intelligence director says they also disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people.
They conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration.
For years, Trump and his allies faced investigations and allegations centering around claims that Russia had interfered in the 2016 presidential election in order to boost his run for the White House. Some critics dismissed the report as contradicting the findings of a 2020 bipartisan report from the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Mark Warner called Gabbard reckless for releasing it, saying the report was partisan. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A spokesperson for former President Obama responded to the allegations, saying nothing in the document released last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 election but did not successfully manipulate any votes. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announced today that the Department of Agriculture, or USDA, is reorganizing. The department will relocate much of its Washington, D.C. workforce to 5 regional hubs and vacate several buildings, with no more than 2,000 workers remaining in the D.C. area. Rollins said the department is refocusing its core operations to better align with supporting American farming, ranching, and forestry. The decision also aligns with President Trump's effort to reorganize and reduce the size of the federal government. Rollins assured that all critical functions of the department will continue uninterrupted. Columbia University will pay over $200 million to settle federal claims of discrimination against Jewish employees and students. The agreement follows months of controversy, protests, and suspended funding. Here are the details.
A resolution to months of conflict over campus protests at Columbia University. The university has agreed to settle with the federal government. Columbia says the settlement includes a $200 million payment to the federal government, plus an additional $21 million to resolve employment discrimination claims. In exchange, Columbia regains access to hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding that had been cut off after multiple agencies found the university failed to protect Jewish students. The Departments of Justice, Education, and Health and Human Services said Columbia has shown continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. According to Acting University President Claire Shipman, the agreement will help restore the university's research enterprise and protect its autonomy. In a letter to members of the Columbia community, she stressed the settlement is not an admission of wrongdoing, but she acknowledged the impact of anti-Semitic incidents on campus. She said the university is committed to create a safe, respectful environment, adding it will work on multiple fronts to combat all forms of hatred and intolerance. Earlier this month, the university agreed to a number of policy changes. It also cited action it has taken, including suspension or expulsion of students who violated rules during protests. Columbia will also update its definition of anti-Semitism and expand training on civil rights law. In addition, the university agreed to follow laws banning race-based hiring and admissions. President Trump praised Wednesday's deal, calling it a victory for civil liberties. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi hailed the agreement as a message that no university is above the law. According to the university, the settlement was carefully negotiated to avoid losing accreditation, federal funding, and visas for international students. Acting President Shipman says she hopes the Columbia community is ready to reset and focus again on academic rigor and respectful debate.
Columbia University will pay $221 million to resolve allegations that it discriminated against Jewish students. This will be in exchange for the restoration of federal grants. And in March, several government agencies announced grant cancellations that totaled around $400 million. Columbia University was one of the most active campuses involved in pro-Palestinian protests that swept the United States in 2024. Joining us now to discuss is legal analyst Bobby Ann Cox, civil rights attorney and fellow Brownstone Institute. Good afternoon, Bobby Ann. Good to see you again. So this level of financial penalty settlement, $221 million, is it significant?
Well, excuse me, in the scheme of things, $221 million is certainly a lot of money. However, when you look at what Columbia University is getting for that $221 million penalty, it's not really going to be very onerous for them. First of all, they receive approximately $1 billion with a B, $1 billion in federal grants. And the $400 million in federal grants that were frozen by the Trump administration back in March, that was just a portion of the approximately $1 billion that they do receive annually in federal grants. So when you take that information and then you add it to the fact that Columbia University has an endowment of approximately 14 or 15 billion with a B, billion dollars, the $221 million penalty or fine that they're paying isn't really going to injure the university or be, it would probably I would say it would be a slap on the wrist for them. But the thing that we should really look at here is that this is something that's probably going to deter other universities from stepping into this same arena of not punishing students and who are acting in an illegal manner, violating federal law, violating other students' civil rights and teachers and staff civil rights. So we have to see this as more of a penalty for Columbia University, but also a warning to other universities.
Okay, you said it's a slap on the wrist. Why do you think the Department of Justice and other agencies opted for a settlement? And your thoughts on Columbia not admitting to wrongdoing in the settlement?
Right. Well, it's really how you read the statement that Columbia University's acting president, Shipman, put out about this settlement. You know, she did admit that Columbia did need to and does continue to need to change their policies, to change how they deal with these situations. So in that sense, there is an admission, although she does start her statement by saying that they're not admitting any wrongdoing. I think what she means there is they're not admitting that they intentionally violated federal laws. But she goes on in her statement to say that the university recognizes that they do need to make changes. They are making changes. They have already started making some of those changes.
So Columbia University last week agreed to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, as well dedicated Title VI, Title VII coordinators, and expanded university-wide education and training initiatives. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that going to improve things?
Well, if they actually do carry out what they say they're going to do, yes, I do think it will improve things because now we have a commitment by Columbia University, its administration, its staff, to move forward, follow our federal laws, and do what universities are supposed to do, and that is be a forum for open discussion, not a one-sided discussion that allows radical students and radical ideas to overtake university, whether it's the quad on the university or the library, which we saw happen back on May 7th of this year, when approximately 100 students took over Butler Library at Columbia University, on a study day when other students were trying to study for final exams. We can't allow this type of behavior. So if they do actually implement and follow the guidelines that are laid out in Title VI, Title VII, these federal laws that are in place to protect people's civil rights in our country, then I do think it will make a difference. And according to Columbia University, they have already started to make some of these changes. And they have, according to Secretary McMahon, she has stated on an interview recently, as this morning, that Columbia will have someone on their campus trying to enforce this, trying to oversee it, trying to make sure these changes actually do happen. And as well as the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice will have a dedicated person that will be in contact with Columbia University, trying to oversee and implement these changes and make sure change is actually happening.
So I just want to build on your point where you said the protests were happening and people were studying. Is there a legal line between protest and anti-Semitism? Where is that line drawn?
Yeah, there's absolutely a line. So, people like to say, especially in these past couple years of unrest with a lot of protests around our country, people like to say, oh, we're just exercising our First Right Amendment to free speech. Yes, absolutely. You have a First Amendment right to free speech in this country. And thank goodness we do. However, that doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, wherever you want. You do have to still operate within our laws. So, a group of 100 students going into Butler Library at Columbia University back in May and, chanting, being loud, hanging Palestinian flags in the library, defacing library property, that is not free speech. That is not expressing yourself in a calm and a First Amendment protected right. No, that's not the way to do it. And we saw last year when there were students at Columbia University, blocking Jewish students from getting to their classes. They locked some students inside a building, and they were trying to get into the building. They defaced university property. They broke windows. You cannot intimidate other people and just turn to the First Amendment and call that, well, it's just me expressing my First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Because you know what? The person that you're harassing also has rights under our Constitution to not be harassed, particularly based upon their religious beliefs or their race or their national origin. So it definitely is a fine line in some cases, but not in this case. Taking over a library and defacing property of the university is not your First Amendment right.
So then, can you comment on Columbia's new protest restrictions? For example, banning masks and limiting protests near academic buildings.
Right. So what they're doing here is they're trying to say, yes, if you want to have your First Amendment right to free speech, you want to protest and make your voices heard, that's fine and good, but you have to do it within certain parameters so that you don't infringe upon other students' rights to have, like we said in this instance, the ability to study for your exams. So we can see some restrictions happen. And I do think in this instance, those are appropriate restrictions. They're saying you can't wear a mask when you do a protest at the university from now on. Okay, well, they're doing that because they want to be able to identify students if they are acting in an illegal or unruly manner that steps over that line and goes from your First Amendment right of free speech to something that's illegal or harassment or violating a federal law. So I think that these implementations of these restrictions on protests are, from what I've read so far, are pretty common sense restrictions. They are still letting them voice their opinions, just not in a disruptive and illegal manner.
Okay, just one last point. Can you talk to us about where is the line between federal oversight and academic autonomy?
Yeah, so that is a slippery slope. There is a concern there that, the government can step in and say, well, you can do this, you can't do that, you can say this, you can't say that. There's definitely a slippery slope. And we do have to be careful in how much power we give the government to do something like that. Our Constitution is written such that the people control the government. We are supposed to be in charge. The politicians, the bureaucrats, they are not in charge. They are supposed to be carrying out the will of the people. So when we get to a point where the government is laying down regulations and restrictions that are too stringent, that becomes an illegal situation. That is unconstitutional. If the government wants to restrict citizens in some manner, they have to have not just a good reason, but they have to prove that this is the least restrictive way that they can achieve the goal that they want to achieve as the government. So it is a concern. We do have to keep our eye on it. The government does not have free rein to do whatever it wants, whenever it wants. And we have to just remember that, because a lot of people, particularly in the past few years, have turned over our autonomy, our power over the government, and just kind of let the government do whatever they want. But that's a dangerous place to be.
Well, Bobby Ann, always well said. Thank you so much for coming on again this week.
Yes, thanks. Nice to see you again.
Okay, coming up, United Health is under a Justice Department investigation. The probe centers around the insurance company's Medicare Advantage plans. We have that and more when we come back.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422. 800-210-6422.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
The number of Americans filing new applications for jobless benefits fell to a 3-month low last week. Labor Department data pointed to stable job market conditions. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits dropped to a seasonally adjusted 217,000 for the week ending July 19th. The reduction marks the lowest level of claims since April. Claims have declined for 6 straight weeks and have pulled further away from an 8-month high in June. The unemployment rate remained at about 4%. The Federal Reserve is expected to maintain its benchmark interest rate in the 4% range at a policy meeting next week on Wednesday. The Fed cut rates 3 times in 2024, with the last move coming in December. Major trade talks postponed a meeting between top South Korean and U.S. officials to negotiate tariffs and has been put off. South Korea's finance ministry said today the problem is due to a scheduling conflict for Secretary Bessent.
They initially said the meeting wasn't possible due to an urgent schedule, so we asked when would be the earliest possible time. After that, they got back to us, saying it should be possible soon.
South Korea's finance minister was set to board a flight for Washington today to attend the meeting with Bessent on Friday. Seoul hopes to hammer out a deal that would spare South Korea from 25% tariffs. Pressure on South Korea increased this week after Japan clinched a deal with the United States. President Trump said the agreement with Japan will allow greater market access for American products, including cars and some agricultural products. American beef is making a comeback in Australia. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins congratulated President Trump yesterday on what she called a major trade breakthrough. Australia has announced it will ease long-standing restrictions on U.S. beef imports, expanding access for American producers. Rollins praised the move as another example of market access that President Trump is negotiating. She said Trump is bringing in a new golden age of prosperity. Australia has restricted U.S. beef imports since 2003, citing concerns about mad cow disease. Beef from animals born, raised, and slaughtered in the U.S. has been permitted since 2019, but few suppliers could meet the strict origin requirements. That's because cattle often move between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico without detailed tracking. Under the new policy, Australia will now accept beef from cattle born in Canada or Mexico as long as they were legally imported and slaughtered in the United States. The Justice Department is investigating United Health over its Medicare Advantage plans. The DOJ is looking into how the company records diagnoses that lead to extra payments. United Health said it was cooperating with federal investigators. Medicare is a government program that covers medical costs for individuals aged 65 and older. The program also covers individuals with disabilities. Earlier this year, the Wall Street Journal reported that federal officials launched a civil fraud investigation into United Health's Medicare Advantage plans. Those are privately run versions of the government's Medicare coverage program. The company's United Healthcare business covers more than 8 million people and is the nation's largest provider of Medicare Advantage plans. United Health stock has fallen more than 40% so far this year. For the first time, Texas state lawmakers met to seek an answer to the deadly flash floods that took at least 137 lives. Here's the story.
Texas state lawmakers met for a special session on Wednesday to address for the first time deadly flash floods that killed at least 137 people there earlier this month. State Senator Lois Kolkhorst is a member of the Joint Senate-House Committee investigating the preparation for and response to the flooding.
What went right, what went wrong, and I think that moreover, and you hear it, is were the warning systems in place? Were they heeded when they were looking at this anomaly of this tropical storm, how it could interact with a low pressure cell? And the timelines are very important to me. And so, I think we're going to have to look at how we coordinate that better and really saying this is a serious warning, you must get out, seek higher ground.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on social media the death toll from the July 4th flash flooding ticked up to 137, ranking it as one of the deadliest U.S. flood events in decades. The high death toll has raised questions about the lack of flash flood warning sirens in hardest-hit Kerr County. Nim Kidd, chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, was the first person lawmakers called to testify on Wednesday. He described the vast state's emergency response system as fragmented, with each of the state's hundreds of counties responsible for ordering evacuations. Such an order was not given in the hardest-hit areas earlier this month. Kidd told lawmakers that to improve preparation for natural disasters, he needed better in-house radar systems, better communication systems to warn local leaders and residents, and more resources for evacuations or to assist residents who shelter in place. The legislative committee investigating the floods will next meet in 1 week in Kerr County. The committee will write a report to be forwarded to the full Texas Senate and House to inform possible legislation.
A California congressman is calling for an investigation into how $100 million for Los Angeles fire victims was spent. Representative Kevin Kiley wants a probe into fire aid. The celebrity concert was held days after the catastrophic Palisades and Eden fires in January. Kiley says none of the public donations made it to those in need. He alleged Tuesday on X that the money went directly to numerous nonprofits, many of which have little to do with fire relief. The congressman posted a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi asking the Department of Justice to investigate. Kiley said he wants to find out where the money was sent and who benefited from the funds. Fire aid organizers with the Ann Berg Foundation promised the funds would be used for direct relief. The foundation did not return a request for comment. Coming up, a fresh uplifting vision in entertainment. We talk to the creators of the world's first streaming platform dedicated to uplifting traditional values. Stay tuned.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Being a cowboy, I don't know anything different from when I was 3 or 4 years old. I did tough things. I thought everybody needed to do tough things, and if you didn't, I didn't have time for it. I had a very successful career at a very young age, and life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally on the inside. And then I got hurt. I wanted to be better as a person, and I really dug into mental health. I start my day with 20-minute workouts. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Horses are so therapeutic. They know what you're feeling. When you're nervous, they're nervous. You won't say it back, but we're pals. I take a lot of responsibility in taking care of my kids, my family, being there for them. You're gonna have tough days. Everybody does. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back. Legendary WWE star Hulk Hogan has died. The pro wrestler was 71 years old. Authorities responded to a call this morning in Clearwater, Florida about a cardiac arrest. Police said Hogan was pronounced dead at a hospital. Hogan, whose real name is Terry Bollea, was one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. A main draw for the first WrestleMania in 1985, Hogan became an icon in the WWE. Hogan faced off against opponents like Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, The Rock, and even company chairman Vince McMahon. Hogan would win at least 6 WWE championships and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. WWE posted on X calling Hogan, quote, one of pop culture's most recognizable figures. Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 1980s. WWE extends its condolences to Hogan's family, friends, and fans. President Trump took to Truth Social, posting, quote, we lost a great friend today, the Hulkster. Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. Trump added, quote, to his wife, Sky, and family, we give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed. And now we're joined in studio by Curtis and Cara Leopard. They're the founders and of the studio, We The Studio. So good to have you guys. It's such a pleasure to have you join us today. So on your show, you have very traditional programs, but before that, you were actually Hollywood veterans. You had a very successful career in Hollywood. You guys made a very bold move to leave that career to step into this project, We The Studio. So to start off, I want to, before we get to our main topic today, talk a little bit about Hulk Hogan. He was more than just a household name. He had such a presence, in the ring, such charisma, and as well in living rooms of many families across America. So any comments you have on his iconic persona, his, shirt ripping, tearing, his catchphrases, any thoughts?
Well, to Hulkamania, I'd like to give a little tribute. A little tribute here. And I got a message for Hollywood. Enough is enough of your woke garbage. What are you gonna do when We the Studios runs wild on you, brother?
Well,
hello. Nice to meet you.
I gotta say, that's a first on the show. Not expecting very much, I would say, a live action tribute to Hulk Hogan, probably the most Hulkamania way to honor his memory. I think Hulk himself would have given you a Big Brother for that. Any thoughts on his?
He was, childhood icon. I felt like a chapter of my childhood closed today, and it's devastating news.
Yeah. Any thoughts you have?
I find it remarkable that he has passed today, but I do think it's worth acknowledging that he gave his life to the Lord recently, and that all of us can sit here today and know that he's in his loving arms right now. So I find solace in that. And he was a great man. He's inspired my husband, who's actually a wrestler. So God bless him and rest in peace.
Yeah, like President Trump said, he'll be sorely missed. So I want to bring it back to our main conversation today, and that is We the Studio. Can you, just to start off, talk to us, what is it and what is its mission?
So We the Studios is a streaming platform founded by my husband and myself. The inspiration for it was Curtis and I worked in Hollywood. We used to work for major networks, casting and producing reality television shows. And once we became parents, we started realizing that the values were not only lacking, they were non-existent in Hollywood. And we found ourselves in front of the TV really for the first time, watching a lot of programming with our kids, and just realized that TV for children isn't exactly TV for children. There's a lot of messaging that we did not agree with. There's virtually zero value-driven entertainment for families. So we decided to take action and use our skill set, Curtis as a feature film producer, myself as a commercial print music video casting director, to start our own network and production company.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing are really important. And I think really it's about choice more than anything. There's just so much nowadays in children's programming where, a lot of parents don't agree with, and they don't have anywhere else to go. And I think you guys probably can very well fill that gap. So on that note, maybe you can talk to us about who is the core audience here for We the Studio.
So our audience, it's women 18 to 45. It's also families, and it's also children. So we're very wide-reaching. I like to say, take the word back from the left. We have a diverse audience, and we really, really love our audience.
Yeah. Anything to add?
It's funny. We left Hollywood originally because of how woke it became, and now we're back 10 years later, getting back into the business because of wokeness. It's spiraled out of control. And you know what? Someone's got to step up, and it's time for us to drop the gloves. We decided to fight back against these people. And we're doing it with cameras, of course, metaphorically speaking.
So, for everyone who's watching, maybe you can point us to a specific project or specific program on your platform so they get a sense of what you guys are offering.
So you can find us on our website, wethestudios.com, inspired by our founding documents, We the People. So it's wethestudios.com. We have all of our shows are family friendly. Our flagship show that's doing very well for us is called Raising Reynolds. It's a family based in Kentucky, raising 4 children they adopted from Kentucky foster care. We also have another series that we just completed that's on, it's on a little girl that wants to be famous, but she's value driven. So she wants to become a singer and a dancer, but this is a little girl that our nation's daughters could actually look up to, and that series is called That Girl Lola. We have another series that's debuting tomorrow on our platform, We the Studios, called Mr. Miami and Me, and that is highlighting a single dad raising a little girl, again, to be value-driven, and that you can You know, unfortunately, half of our nation is divorced. Children come from divorced families, but you could still be a single divorced father and be extremely involved in your child's life.
So on that point, can you talk to us about how do you balance entertainment value versus, traditional values?
That's a great question. So our children, our two youngest, are heavily involved in our productions. If we're making family-driven entertainment, families have to be involved. So my husband and I cast, produce, and direct everything together. And it's under the watchful eye of our two sons that are 8 and 11. So we're always looking at it literally from the lens of a child.
Okay, so I want to follow up on a point that Curtis was talking about earlier about leaving Hollywood. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? What was the turning point for you guys, where you just had to say, we can't do this anymore?
So at the time we had 2 kids, we have 4 now. And what we did was we went out, we procured leads from all the major networks to go find particular content that they were looking for. And we actually got a lead that we didn't really like too much. It was go out and find pronoun kids. At the time, we didn't know what that was, right? We didn't know what a pronoun kid was, right? But we just got really disgusted by it. And that's when we decided, you know what, maybe it's time for us to do something different. Take a hiatus from Hollywood. Let's go, raise our kids in the Midwest. And now we have 4 kids. But then it's just, like I said, it's been taking such a spiral in the wrong direction. For the last 10 years, it's been out of control with this wokeness that's been plaguing, our society and destroying our pop culture.
And if you don't mind my asking, what do you mean by woke content? What does it specifically mean to you guys?
So woke, I guess the left, right? They can change definitions on a day. But currently woke means social justice warriors. Maybe you're casting based upon skin color or nationality versus merit. And so what non-woke entertainment is the complete opposite. We cast based upon merit. We cast based upon story. We cast based upon traditional American values. So all of our talent, nobody has a pronoun, and they love our country. And it's many different faiths.
Boys are boys, girls are girls. We're not selling illusions like the left does. We're actually telling the truth, which wokeness is a lie, and it's a cancer.
So, you have a lot of great content on We the Studio, this streaming platform. What are families telling you after they view your content?
So we're hearing 2 things from families repeatedly. They're saying, thank you so much for doing this. And they're saying, how do we get more? And the way you can get more is tell everybody you know about We the Studios. Tell them to subscribe. Scream it from the rooftops, because with more subscriptions, we can continue to reinvest in the content and make more content.
It's only $3.99 a month. It's less than a cup of coffee a month. It's good value.
It is. It's very cheap compared to other streaming platforms like Netflix, which is in the double digits, Amazon Prime Video, and all the others. I mean, this is really a good deal, and you're really getting traditional content that is very healthy for a growing child. So on that note, maybe you can talk to us about how you guys view how media plays a role in shaping the next generation.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel like the general public assumes that, who our legislators are create culture, and it's the complete opposite. Entertainment creates culture. Our kids are wearing what they're wearing to school or to the gymnasium every single day because of what they're seeing in commercials, print, TV shows, and music videos. And if they are always exposed to leftist entertainment and leftist ideologies, they're going to follow that. So entertainment and culture, they go hand in hand. And so we're countering that culture. We're showing great examples of men, great examples of women, and great examples of children.
So it goes without saying, of course, that launching a streaming platform is a huge undertaking. I would imagine you faced some challenges, big or small. Perhaps you can talk to us about some of them and how you overcame them.
So we've probably faced every single challenge you can imagine. We've had cast walk from set. We've had technology difficulties. We've had legal challenges. But at the end of the day, I think it's remarkable in the last year and a half what we've been able to accomplish. And I give it to the grace of God, because I'm very hardworking, and so is my husband. But there's really no other explanation for how we got to where we're at today. So I think he's had his hand on us. Curtis, you could probably speak to some more challenges. Probably some of the people closest to us, it's been hard for them because this was a big risk for us financially, and throwing a punch, metaphorically, to Hollywood, it's very scary for a lot of people around us that are close to us. It's like, why are you putting a spotlight on our family? Why are you putting a spotlight on your name? And, you know,
that's the thing is we launched when Biden was president, and you know, we didn't know if Trump was going to win again. We didn't know if we were entering, you know, danger waters at the time. If could we get locked up for doing this kind of stuff? We don't know what the next Biden presidency was going to look like, right? And going into these dark waters, making non-woke entertainment, we don't know what that promised, right? But we did it because God told us to do it. We had to do it. We had to go through the fear and just make it happen.
That was probably the biggest hurdle. We had a lot of fear of the unknown. What were we walking into? What kind of financial stress were we putting on our family doing this? What kind of administration would we be facing? Could we potentially get locked up for making content like this? I mean, those are all real possibilities that do happen in other countries.
And you mentioned this a couple of times. So how does faith play a role in everything that you guys are doing?
It's the foundation for everything that we do. It's the foundation of our marriage, of our parenting, and also our business. We don't claim to be a Christian network, but we do claim to have Christian values. So it is rooted and woven into every single story that we tell. And we hope, you know, our entertainment could educate and inspire and maybe bring some people closer to God.
Okay, I'll just end with this question. You've called We the Studio a platform that is more than just a platform. You've called it a movement. What does that mean?
So it's a lifestyle. We also have a monthly publication called We the Studio's Lifestyle, and it's really a way of life. It is, you know, having a good marriage. It's taking care of your body inside and out. It is consuming good entertainment. You are what you eat, but you are also what you consume, and that goes for your mind and your eyeballs as well. So it encompasses every single thing that we do, and yeah, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, most importantly, it's a movement for pop culture to promote nuclear family and start creating good content that's actually worthwhile.
Well, Curtis, Cara, thank you so much for you guys' sharing of the journey. It's so incredible to hear that you guys are doing this. And I think on behalf of many families, we thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, coming up, a monster truck's wheel goes flying out of an arena and a live reporter comes to the rescue of a crashed cyclist. We have that and more when we come back.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
So at the age of 5, I was sexually molested. I had my first child at the age of 15 and became homeless at the age of 16. The scariest part about not having a place to live was having a child and not having a place to live and not knowing where our meal was going to come from and where we're going to sleep. To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them. 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference, Covenant House.
Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis.
It was pretty tough, but Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life. They gave me the love that I needed. They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding.
Your $19 monthly gift is urgently needed to reach other young people who are facing unimaginable situations. Call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Your support makes the work of Covenant House possible. Thank you for caring.
Hey, have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Get new lower prices all summer long with price drop alerts all over the store. They have all the latest looks at unbeatable prices. Like this big sofa with curved arms and 5 plush throw pillows. They dropped the price to just $5.99. That's an incredible value. And with their huge selection, you're sure to find the style that's just right for you. In stock with fast, free delivery. Look for price drop alert tags and save now at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
A high-flying monster truck stunt turned shocking when the vehicle's wheel suddenly broke loose and went sailing into the parking lot. We have more.
A crazy caught-on-cam moment at a monster truck event in Washington state captured a tire flying off a performing vehicle and into the parking lot. It happened at an arena in Bremerton as spectators were enjoying some monstrous motoring mayhem. As a truck came down after an impressive aerial stunt, a huge wheel broke loose and hurtled over the venue's wall and into the parking lot, where thankfully it didn't injure anyone but appeared to strike some trees, and that's not all. An image later posted on Facebook showed at least one car that was crushed by the massive runaway wheel. The event's organizers later posted a statement on the incident saying multiple cars were damaged and they were taking steps to reduce similar risks, also saying, quote, "We will always do everything we can to help further the safety of this great sport we all love." Another love of extreme sports led to a rescue operation in California when officials were called to the scene of a skydiver stuck in some power lines. The skydiver's parachute got tangled in the lines and left the man dangling and waiting for help. KOVR says rescuers coordinated with local utility companies to secure the power lines, and the skydiver was safely brought down. Crews say the man suffered only minor injuries and not, more shocking ones. Finally, more people helping people, namely heroic WLS Chicago reporter Christian Picos, who put a live lakefront report on hold when he saw a cyclist collide with a runner. Oh, shoot. Picos ran to the aid of the fallen cyclist, whom he said was okay, and refused medical aid before returning to his report.
He's walking it off, but yeah, it's just a scary situation. You got to be careful out here on the trail.
Coming up, the latest on the ceasefire negotiations with Hamas. What is Special Envoy Steve Witkoff saying about the reason for calling back the negotiation team? At least for now. We have that and more after the break.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion. Artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits 0, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens.
Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gone Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump set to tour the Federal Reserve headquarters in D.C. amid its controversial $2.5 billion renovation. What to expect and the latest in his feud with Fed Chair Jerome Powell as he demands lower interest rates. Legendary WWE star Hulk Hogan has died at age 71, and we have more on Hogan's life and career coming up. Columbia University will pay over $200 million to resolve allegations it discriminated against Jewish students. But does it go far enough? We speak with legal counsel of the Welfare or Lawfare Project, Gerard Filitti, for his take. United Health is under a Justice Department investigation. The probe centers around the insurance company's Medicare Advantage plans. The latest on the ceasefire negotiations with Hamas. What is Special Envoy Steve Witkoff saying about the reason for calling back the negotiation team, at least for now?
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. The House of Representatives has begun its August recess, but the Senate continues to work on important nominations, including the nomination of former Congressman Mike Waltz to be the next UN ambassador. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Eduardo Martinez, has the details on the story.
The Senate is moving ahead with President Trump's nominations despite some pushback from lawmakers to the president's request to cancel the August recess.
And I know that President Trump has placed a keen priority on his nominees, and we will advance them as quickly as we possibly can.
This Thursday, the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee advanced the nomination of former Congressman Mike Waltz to become the next UN ambassador. He now awaits a full Senate floor vote to be confirmed.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
The Senate Judiciary Committee also advanced this Thursday the nomination of Janine Pirro to be the next U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Both votes have been partisan, and Democrats have threatened to block the appropriations process on which the Senate is behind schedule.
We can't reach agreements when Trump simply overrides them later on a strictly partisan basis. There's no trust. There's no way we can rely on Republicans' words.
The Democrats have indicated, because they're so upset over the rescissions bill last week, which, by the way, cut 1/10 of 1% of all federal spending, that somehow they can use that as an excuse to shut down the appropriations process and therefore shut down the government.
The Senate is also ready to quickly move to vote on a new Russia sanctions package.
Russia sanctions, when it's ready to go, with the right bipartisan support, which I think exists. There are 85 co-sponsors on that bill. We ought to be able to expedite consideration of that on the floor. And I'm ready to do that. Again, we're working, trying to coordinate with the White House.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune has advised senators that it is possible that he will extend the Senate session into the first week of August. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
China is once again under scrutiny as a cybersecurity threat. A U.S. lawmaker today pressed the Defense Department over data shared with Chinese engineers under a cloud computing contract with Microsoft. The concern stems from a ProPublica report alleging Microsoft used engineers based in China to help maintain Pentagon systems with minimal U.S. oversight. The arrangement reportedly relied on U.S. citizens with security clearances, known as digital escorts, to supervise the work. But the report said many lacked the technical expertise to effectively monitor the more skilled overseas workers. Following the report, Microsoft said it has ended the practice. In response, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth launched a 2-week review to ensure no other contractors following similar practices. Reuters reported that Senator Tom Cotton has asked Hegseth to disclose any past or potential security breaches tied to the practice. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announcing today that the Department of Agriculture, or USDA, is reorganizing. The department will relocate much of its Washington, D.C. workforce to 5 regional hubs and vacate several buildings, with no more than 2,000 workers remaining in the D.C. area. Rollins said the department is refocusing its core operations to better align with supporting American farming, ranching, and forestry. The decision also aligns with President Trump's efforts to reorganize and reduce the size of the federal government. Rollins assured that all critical functions of the department will continue uninterrupted. Columbia University will pay over $200 million to settle federal claims of discrimination against Jewish students and employees. The agreement follows months of controversy, protests, and suspended funding. Here are the details.
A resolution to months of conflict over campus protests at Columbia University. The university has agreed to settle with the federal government. Columbia says the settlement includes a $200 million payment to the federal government, plus an additional $21 million to resolve employment discrimination claims. In exchange, Columbia regains access to hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding that had been cut off after multiple agencies found the university failed to protect Jewish students. The Departments of Justice, Education, and Health and Human Services said Columbia has shown continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. According to Acting University President Claire Shipman, the agreement will help restore the university's research enterprise and protect its autonomy. In a letter to members of the Columbia community, she stressed the settlement is not an admission of wrongdoing, but she acknowledged the impact of anti-Semitic incidents on campus. She said the university is committed to create a safe, respectful environment, adding it will work on multiple fronts to combat all forms of hatred and intolerance. Earlier this month, the university agreed to a number of policy changes. It also cited action it has taken, including suspension or expulsion of students who violated rules during protests. Columbia will also update its definition of anti-Semitism and expand training on civil rights law. In addition, the university agreed to follow laws banning race-based hiring and admissions. President Trump praised Wednesday's deal, calling it a victory for civil liberties. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi hailed the agreement as a message that no university is above the law. According to the university, the settlement was carefully negotiated to avoid losing accreditation, federal funding, and visas for international students. Acting President Shipman says she hopes the Columbia community is ready to reset and focus again on academic rigor and respectful debate.
Joining us now to further discuss the matter is Gerard Filitti, Senior Counsel of the Lawfare Project. Gerard, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Now, in a statement by the Lawfare Project, it states that the deal does next to nothing to address the systemic, deeply rooted anti-Semitism that existed at Columbia since long before October 7th, 2023. Would you like to expand on that?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. And first, the good. A $200 million payment to the government is a good message to Columbia that if it does not actually follow the law and uphold the civil rights of Jewish students, then it may face more financial penalty. The bad, however, is that this agreement is paying lip service to a lot of change. There's nothing structural or systemic. For example, the university agreed to consider the IHRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, but not use it exclusively. It agreed to place limitations on face masks, but not ban them completely during protests. It agreed to place restrictions on protests, but not without significant clarity. And at the end of the day, what's not addressed is the systemic anti-Semitism, the root cause of why we see so many protests and activities and harassment and discrimination targeting Jewish students. It's about imposing consequences, and for that, we do see a step in the right direction, but we're not seeing the elimination or the working towards eliminating the hatred at the core of this.
So Columbia said it's going to adopt the definition of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. Your thoughts on that? Is Colombia going to uphold that, and is it going to change things?
Well, technically speaking, what Colombia promised to do is to use that definition, or excuse me, it said that it would consider using that definition alongside another. It did not promise to exclusively use that definition. Now, the IHRA definition is what the federal government uses when evaluating civil rights complaints filed by Jewish students who are about addressing anti-Semitism. Colombia is not promising to use it exclusively, so it's creating confusion. Which definition will it use and under what circumstances remains to be seen. This is why one of the reasons why this deal is a disappointment, because it lets Colombia off the hook in terms of definitions.
So another point of criticism aims at office faculty members. Can you go into details about where you believe the deal falls short in that regard specifically?
Well, we've seen in the last few years that a lot of the anti-Semitism on campus has its origins among faculty, in classes, in the classroom, what faculty members are saying. We have faculty members at Columbia openly supporting Hamas and praising October 7. This deal does nothing about that. The Trump administration originally had wanted to place the Middle Eastern Studies Department in receivership. So an outside audit, an outside control of this department to root out the discrimination and the hatred. Columbia did not agree to that. What it's agreeing to is to hire another provost to do an internal review. That's essentially the chicken coop being run by the fox, not by some external person who can have independence and objectivity. So we're not seeing the reform within academia, within the faculty, that very much would help address the root cause of the Jew hatred.
Where is the line drawn in terms of free speech and the right to protest?
The line's drawn at the conduct. When we see free speech that is hurtful, that is itself problematic. But when it's meant to target, to intimidate, to bully, to harass, that crosses the line. When you see conduct that breaks into libraries, that breaks into buildings, that occupies buildings, that's a crime. That's not permissible under the First Amendment. When you see conduct that bars Jewish students from accessing campus or prevents them from participating in educational or social activities like any other student, that is also illegal. So it's not about the speech, it's the conduct. And unfortunately, what we've seen at Columbia is speech taken to a whole new level, designed to hurt, designed to harass, designed to discriminate, and that's been the effect.
So on that point, can I get your comments on Colombia saying in a statement that it does not admit wrongdoing in the settlement?
Well, a lot of settlement agreements never admit wrongdoing. They just promise to do better in the future. So that itself is unremarkable. Now, what would really have been meaningful in this statement is if Colombia offered some apology and recognition of the pain of Jewish students by specifically acknowledging that anti-Zionism, that the attack on Jews for their connection to their homeland in Israel is a recognized form of anti-Semitism and is unacceptable. The university hasn't done that. The university is not making it that much safer for Jewish students. It's just pushing the problem further down the road.
Can you also comment a bit more on whether this sets a precedent for other universities?
Unfortunately, there is a concern, there is a fear that this is a precedent for other universities, that other universities will fail to make systemic reforms, will fail to address IHRA definition, or fail to address faculty and staff members or students who are acting against Jewish students. The concern is that if every school, does what Columbia did, that's not enough. It's lip service to the problem. It's not actually rooting out Jew hatred. Many schools have had to grapple with racism, with bigotry, with LGBTQ hatred, and they've done so very well. It's only when it comes to Jewish students that schools seem to be trying to do the least amount that they can. And if this agreement is any indication, we have a lot of concern that other schools will also follow Columbia's example and not do enough.
But would you say Columbia's expelling, suspending, and revoking degrees, does that at least act as a deterrent for future incidents?
We sincerely hope so. Normally, imposing consequences is a deterrent. It's disappointing that it took Columbia this long to agree to impose consequences on clear illegal actions and conduct violations. But again, this is one of the few things about this agreement that's actually good. Columbia enforcing its rules and enforcing them vigorously, that's a step in the right direction. So we don't want to detract that. That's something that the school should have been doing all along. If it had been enforcing its rules since October 8th, we would not be in the situation where we are today. So this is a strong message by the Trump administration to Columbia and other universities that if you don't enforce your rules, you will have problems.
Where is the line between government intervention and academic autonomy?
Well, academic autonomy is not the same as free license to people to discriminate. It's not free license to intimidate, to harass, to bully others, to break the law. So government intervention is necessary when you have civil rights that are at risk, when minority communities like the Jewish community are targeted with hate, with violence, and with discrimination. Academic freedom is not something that the government needs to be looking at, except so far as it's part of what the hostile atmosphere is. We would love for universities to be able to reform themselves, to offer more diversity, to go back to teaching values and respecting democracy and not be influenced by foreign ideas and foreign funding. But if that's not up to the government, ultimately, that's for the universities themselves to reform. For the government, it needs to robustly enforce our civil rights laws. And to do that at Columbia, it actually needs to examine what the faculty is doing.
Okay, just one final question. What would the right of protest and freedom of speech look like in the correct way to you?
Well, first of all, you wouldn't be wearing masks to hide your identity or to intimidate others. You would be able to speak and have whatever message you want, but not act in a manner. Act in a manner, that's conduct that harasses, intimidates, or discriminates. You don't chase students on college campuses. You don't bar them from entering buildings. You certainly don't break the law and take over buildings. You don't engage in violent attacks. That's the limit. You can have free speech. You can have robust debate. You can have protest. We're a nation of that started under the guise of protests, but you cannot use violence. You cannot advocate for that kind of violent behavior that's targeted and hurt so many Jewish students. So what the line is the conduct. You can have free speech, but it can be done in a respectful way, and it can be done with reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, just as the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that it can.
Okay, Gerard, always great to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, United Health is under a Justice Department investigation. The probe centers around the insurance company's Medicare Advantage plans. Stay with us.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month. Less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day, with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
A man charged with attempting to assassinate President Trump last year at his Florida golf course returned to court today, once again seeking to represent himself. Ryan Ruth first made the request earlier this month during a hearing in Florida before federal judge Eileen Cannon. The request, made orally and under oath, came a day before Ruth submitted a typed letter. In the letter, he said that he and his attorneys were a million miles apart and that going forward, he would represent himself. Ruth is scheduled to stand trial in September. The judge told Ruth earlier this month that she doesn't intend to delay the September 8th start date of his trial, even if she lets him represent himself. The Justice Department is investigating United Health over its Medicare Advantage plans. The DOJ is looking into how the company records diagnoses that lead to extra payments. United Health said it was cooperating with federal investigators. Medicare is a government program that covers medical costs for individuals aged 65 and older. The program also covers individuals with disabilities. Earlier this year, the Wall Street Journal reported that federal officials launched a civil fraud investigation into United Health's Medicare Advantage plans. Those are privately run versions of the government's Medicare coverage program. The company's United Healthcare business covers more than 8 million people and is the nation's largest provider of Medicare Advantage plans. United Health stock has fallen more than 40% so far this year. For the first time, Texas state lawmakers met to seek an answer to the deadly flash floods that took at least 137 lives. Here's the story.
We asked those that had the facts.
Texas state lawmakers met for a special session on Wednesday to address for the first time deadly flash floods that killed at least 137 people there earlier this month. State Senator Lois Kolkhorst is a member of the Joint Senate-House Committee investigating the preparation for and response to the flooding.
What went right, what went wrong, and I think that moreover, and you hear it, is were the warning systems in place? Were they heeded when they were looking at this anomaly of this tropical storm, how it could interact with a low pressure cell? And the timelines are very important to me. And so, I think we're going to have to look at how we coordinate that better and really saying this is a serious warning. You must get out, seek higher ground.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on social media the death toll from the July 4th flash flooding ticked up to 137, ranking it as one of the deadliest U.S. flood events in decades. The high death toll has raised questions about the lack of flash flood warning sirens in hardest-hit Kerr County. Nim Kidd, chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, was the first person lawmakers called to testify on Wednesday. He described the vast state's emergency response system as fragmented, with each of the state's hundreds of counties responsible for ordering evacuations. Such an order was not given in the hardest-hit areas earlier this month. Kidd told lawmakers that to improve preparation for natural disasters, he needed better in-house radar systems, better communication systems to warn local leaders and residents, and more resources for evacuations or to assist residents who shelter in place. The legislative committee investigating the floods will next meet in 1 week in Kerr County. The committee will write a report to be forwarded to the full Texas Senate and House to inform possible legislation.
A California congressman is calling for an investigation into how $100 million for Los Angeles fire victims was spent. Representative Kevin Kiley wants a probe into fire aid. The celebrity concert was held days after the catastrophic Palisades and Eden fires in January. Kiley says none of the public donations made it to those in need. He alleged Tuesday on X that the money went directly to numerous nonprofits, many of which have little to do with fire relief. The congressman posted a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi asking the Department of Justice to investigate. Kelly said he wants to find out where the money was sent and who benefited from the funds. Fire aid organizers with the Ann Berg Foundation promised the funds would be used for direct relief. The foundation did not return a request for comment. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers won't seek re-election in next year's midterms. The two-term Democrat announced his decision on X earlier today.
For 5 decades, my family has sacrificed to give me the gift of service. They're my world, and I owe it to them to focus on doing all the things we enjoy and love doing together. It's why, Wisconsin, I'm announcing that I will not be running for a 3rd term.
The governor says he won't be running because he wants to spend more time with his family. In a video message, Evers says, quote, "Wisconsin, the only thing I love more than being your governor is being a husband, a dad, and a grandpa." Evers thanks his family for supporting him and calls being governor of Wisconsin his best job. Evers' decision to not run opens up a competitive race in the battleground state. Legendary WWE star Hulk Hogan has died. Fans took to social media today to pay their respects to the pro wrestling and entertainment icon. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on Hogan's career and the reactions to his passing.
Authorities responded to a call this morning in Clearwater, Florida about a cardiac arrest. Police said Hogan was pronounced dead at a hospital. Hogan, whose real name was Terry Bollea, was one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. A main draw for the first WrestleMania in 1985, Hogan became an icon in the WWE. The household name faced off against opponents like Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, The Rock, and even company chairman Vince McMahon. Hogan would win at least 6 WWE championships and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. WWE posted on X, calling Hogan, quote, "one of pop culture's most recognizable figures." Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 1980s. WWE extends its condolences to Hogan's family, friends, and fans. President Donald Trump took to Truth Social, posting, quote, "We lost a great friend today, the Hulkster." Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. Trump added, quote, "To his wife Sky and family, we give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed." Vice President J.D. Vance posted on X, calling Hogan, quote, "a great American icon." Fellow pro wrestling star Ric Flair took to the platform as well, posting, quote, "Hulk has been by my side since we started in the wrestling business. An incredible athlete, talent, friend, and father. Our friendship has meant the world to me." Hogan was 71 years old. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
When we come back, President Trump set to tour the Federal Reserve headquarters in D.C. amid its controversial $2.5 billion renovation. What to expect and the latest in his feud with Fed Chair Jerome Powell as he demands lower interest rates. The latest on the ceasefire negotiations with Hamas. What is Special Envoy Steve Witkoff saying about the reason for calling back the negotiation team, at least for now? That and more after the break.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is going to be Addie's room.
I am blind.
You really like it.
I hope so. Yeah. I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Ways down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know this road is there for me.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
The U.S. is bringing back its negotiators from the ceasefire talks with Hamas in Doha. Steve Witkoff, special envoy for peace missions, made the announcement in a social media post today. Witkoff says the latest response from Hamas, quote, clearly shows a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. Here's the State Department spokesperson speaking about what's behind the decision.
While the mediators have made a great effort, Hamas does not appear to be coordinated or acting in good faith. We will now consider alternative options to bring the hostages home and try to create a more stable environment for the people of Gaza.
The spokesperson didn't elaborate on what alternative options are being considered to bring back the hostages. He also said the State Department is continuing to work on delivering more aid to Gaza without it being looted by Hamas. Russia is now targeting a spiritual group long persecuted in China, mirroring the Chinese Communist Party's playbook. Those arrested now facing sentencings of various terms, including forced labor and up to 6 years of imprisonment. NTD's Steve Lance breaks down the latest developments out of Russia.
This video shows masked Russian officers breaking down the door of a Moscow apartment. This where the brother of the Falun Gong practitioner resides. The arrest, just one of many, marks an alarming escalation. Russia is now targeting a spiritual group persecuted in China, mirroring the CCP's 26-year-long persecution campaign against the spiritual group. Practitioners of Falun Gong in Russia, just like those in the United States and around the world, often work to expose the truth about the persecution of the practice that's taking place inside of mainland China. But in February, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping reaffirmed what they're calling a no-limits partnership, this all taking place on the anniversary of the Ukraine war. It appears that now includes the persecution of Falun Gong extending into Russia. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation practice with a spiritual component based on the three principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. It's been heavily persecuted inside of China since 1999, and now this group of Russian citizens are being persecuted for practicing this spiritual discipline and for shining a light on the human rights abuses taking place inside of China. Human rights defenders have identified them as prisoners of conscience. For example, one of them, Zhu Yun, was just sentenced to 3 years in a modern-day labor camp with roots in the Soviet-era Gulag system. But the persecution began ramping up last April. This when Russia placed Oksana Shchetkina under house arrest. Barely a month later, on May 3rd, 2024, Russia launched a wave of searches and detentions of Falun Gong practitioners inside of Moscow. The following day, Moscow authorities targeted a woman named Natalia Menenkova, saying that she helped to coordinate Falun Gong practitioner and related activities to expose the persecution. That same day, a Russian judge sent Minikova to a pretrial detention center. The others detained in Moscow were then held under the pretense of being witnesses in her case. Minikova was the last to be sentenced. Her verdict Wednesday is a 4-year sentence to a Russian labor camp.
In a statement to the Epoch Times, the State Department commented on the situation. Quote, the United States condemns the Russian government's actions targeting and repressing members of religious minorities, including Falun Gong practitioners. We urge Russia to respect the right of all those exercise of freedom of religion or belief. All religious minorities should be able to enjoy freedom of religion and assembly without interference, the spokesperson said. The European Union is closing in on a decision over how to respond to a major tariff threat from the United States. The leaders of France and Germany met in Berlin to discuss the options as transatlantic tensions grow. NTD's international correspondent David Vivez has the story.
French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz held talks in Berlin Wednesday amid rising concerns over a new trade standoff with the United States. At the center of the meeting, President Trump's plan to impose 30% tariffs on EU imports by August 1st if no agreement is reached. Macron and Merz expressed optimism, saying a European response is near.
We will coordinate our efforts to provide stability and have the lowest possible tariffs, but also, of course, to be respected as the partners that we are. The goal is to achieve real convergence between us, and, of course, with the President of the European Commission, in order to finalize the tariff issue as quickly and as effectively as possible.
While the French President and the German Chancellor remain optimistic, the EU is still preparing for the worst. Brussels has drawn up a $100 billion counter-tariff package in case negotiations collapse. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says discussions are improving, with trade officials from both sides meeting this week. Beyond trade, Macron and Merz also discussed energy and defense cooperation. They also stressed the importance of fighting corruption in Ukraine, calling it a key issue on the country's path toward joining the European Union. France and Germany are also pursuing a joint arms project, but negotiations with weapons manufacturers remain a major point of contention. The two heads of state are set to meet again in southern France at the end of August to reach an agreement. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
The number of Americans filing for new applications for jobless benefits fell to a 3-month low last week. Labor Department data pointed to stable job market conditions. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits dropped to a seasonally adjusted 217,000 for the week ending July 19th. The reduction marks the lowest level of claims since April. Claims have declined for 6 straight weeks and have pulled further away from an 8-month high in June. The unemployment rate remained at about 4%. The Federal Reserve is expected to maintain its benchmark interest rate in the 4% range at a policy meeting next Wednesday. The Fed cut rates 3 times in 2024, with the latest move coming in December. President Donald Trump will visit the Federal Reserve headquarters today, this amid ongoing tensions between the administration and the central bank. Trump has been critical of Powell for not cutting rates more aggressively. Meanwhile, Trump is also considering supporting a bill to eliminate the capital gains tax on home sales. Trump has spoken favorably about the proposal on 2 separate occasions this month. Joining us now to discuss is Lydia Mashburn-Newman, Managing Director of Monetary Economics at the American Institute for Economic Research. Good afternoon, Lydia. Thanks for joining us again. So, what do you think might be motivating President Trump's recent comments and his visit to the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, so as we know, President Trump has been pretty critical of Chairman Powell, too late Powell, as he's been calling him, among other names. And most of his criticism has been geared toward Powell's monetary policy decisions. But the president is prevented from removing the chair of the Fed for anything but cause. But in recent weeks, in the last month or so, there have been calls that perhaps there is a possibility of removing him for cause for the cost overruns of this federal building project, these renovations to two areas of the Federal Reserve's real estate. And so the administration has been diving into this in detail to try to figure out if there is really a level of misconduct in the cost overruns of this project. Some other legislators have been curious if Powell may have potentially misspoke or may have even perjured himself to a certain extent by stating the costs of this building renovation. But a lot of it seems to be geared toward making an avenue for dealing with the concerns that President Trump has with the stance of interest rates. So it really actually comes down to the stance of monetary policy, Trump wanting the Fed to cut and the Fed not having cut, at least not cut this year during his presidency. And so I do think that that might be spilling over quite a bit into this conversation about cost overruns in this building project.
So on this subject, the independence of the central bank or the Federal Reserve come into question. So maybe we can talk about that. Could you explain for those that are not well versed in the subject why it is important to have independence of the Federal Reserve?
So this is a great question. What we mean by independence is actually incredibly important. A lot of people assume we say independence, meaning we want this entity to be completely outside of the scope of any elected officials. But our Constitution actually requires that the Federal Reserve be accountable to Congress, because our Constitution rests our monetary authority with Congress, and they have delegated it to the Federal Reserve to behave in a way that maximizes what is in statute. They're supposed to maximize employment, and they're supposed to create long-run steady prices. And so that is what the Fed is tasked with doing by Congress. And so that is a level of independence, but also a level of accountability that Congress has over the Fed and that the Fed has to Congress. The independence that a lot of people are concerned about is whether political pressure can push on the scales of monetary policy to sort of be expedient for whoever might be in power at that time. So we're talking about sort of using monetary policy, which is the authority and power to create money, in order to juice the economy to potentially benefit those who have been elected to political office. That's the kind of independence you do want to have, because we have a ton of history that shows if a government can put pressure on your monetary authority to print money when it's expedient for them, it leads to long-term economic downturns. It can overextend the economy. It leads to the boom and bust cycle of the business cycle, and it can lead to recessions or even depressions. So it might be expedient in the front end to lower rates quite a bit, like President Trump has been asking for. But if they are lower than what the economy really needs, it actually can cause really poor incentives in the economy that can have disastrous consequences later down the road. And we saw this somewhat in the Great Depression era. We saw this also happen under Lyndon Johnson as well as President Nixon, where both of them put pressure on the Federal Reserve chairs to make monetary policy easier or looser, that is, print more money. And both of those led to the buildup that created the great both inflation and stagflation we experienced in the 1970s. So it is this, when we say independence, we're trying to prevent that kind of thing from happening. But we also want to be clear, the Fed is accountable to Congress. So for cost overruns like this building project, this is something that we would actually like to see some good sunlight to be shed on it to make sure they're acting in good faith with their efforts in this building project as well as any other operations.
So the question is, if the president says it'll be nice to have a lower interest rate, the benchmark Fed funds rate, or commenting on the benefits of cutting rates by 1% or whatever the number may be, is that undermining at all, just commenting on that, undermining monetary policy, the independence of the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, there are some arguments that the Fed delaying having cut interest rates throughout the entirety of 2025 is almost the opposite of the political pressure, meaning they are actually succumbing to political pressure that is trying to get them to reduce rates by not then reducing rates. And the thing that as economists we want to do is we want to figure out, it shouldn't be about whether one group wants rates lower or another group doesn't want them to go low yet. What we want to say is, what is the economy actually calling for? What is the level of interest rates that actually match up with the savings and investment in the economy? And the Fed should be targeted toward that type of effort, as opposed to holding rates steady because they don't want to look like they are succumbing to political pressure, or reducing rates simply because of political pressure. So a lot of this has kind of gotten a little tangled. And what I like to encourage people to do is look through all the noise of the rhetoric, and let's look at what the economy needs and have a substantive conversation about what should the level of interest rates actually be, given where the economy is today, both in terms of growth, inflation, and employment. And so those are the factors that really should be driving monetary policy, not one group wanting rates lower or another group wanting to protest by keeping rates steady, which one might argue is what the Federal Reserve officials have been doing of late.
So how might this conflict, if you want to call it that, shape the selection process for the next Fed chair? Because I can't help wonder if we're likely to see a new chair that is more responsive to the president.
So that is the $1 million question, or maybe it's the $9 trillion question, which is the size of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, or was the height of the size of the Fed's balance sheet. It's gotten lower, but it is a big question. It does seem that in order to get the nod from President Trump, he's looking for somebody who's going to be what we call more dovish, somebody who might want lower interest rates, at least compared to current policy. And that's sort of the advertising that a person who wants to be considered needs to kind of showcase, that they may be willing or have a good reason for saying why rates should be lower. But here again, we got to go back to the economy itself. Do rates really need to be lower? There are certain metrics that say that they could stand to be a little bit lower. Maybe monetary policy is slightly tight, but there are very few indicators saying that monetary policy is inordinately tight and we should reduce by 100, 200, or even 300 basis points as President Trump has called for. That would get us down to something like a 1% interest rate, 1.5% interest rate, which are levels that we really haven't seen except during unusual circumstances like after the financial crisis, when we had a number of other issues going on. That actually wasn't an indication of a healthy economy. It was more of an indication of slow business growth. So we do want to be cautious. Like, low rates can be great and are great for those who receive them on the front end, but they can sow the seeds for poor economic investments that aren't sustainable in the long run. But I do anticipate that Trump will look for somebody who will support his view that rates should be much, much lower. But there's an important thing to remember here, not to go on too much, but this really does matter. We are starting to view the Fed as sort of a monolithic entity that the chair sets policy. But Fed interest rates are actually set by a body of the 7 board members in D.C., as well as a rotating mix of regional Fed presidents. And there used to be a time when you had different disagreements about what the level of rates would be, and the members would vote on those disagreements. But we've gotten so used to this consensus policy that now we're presuming that the single person of the Fed chair is now solely setting policy, which is not how the Federal Reserve System was designed or set up, and it does heavily reduce accountability and balance if that is the future direction the Fed continues to go in, which is the type of chair that President Trump seems to be desirous of.
Okay, changing topics, we do have another item to talk about, and that is President Trump saying that ending capital tax gains on home sales would create more incentives for home buyers to list their properties for sale. So my question to you is, what is the capital gains tax on home sales, and do you think getting rid of it would boost the housing market?
Mm-hmm. So the capital gains tax on home sales is, if you have a home that is your primary home, you only have to pay a capital gain tax on the portion that's above $250,000 of an increase in value, or above $500,000 in the increase in value. And I think what President Trump's trying to get at is that home prices have gone up so significantly that the potential for anyone who has been in their home for 15 or 20 years, especially maybe 30 years, that they will suffer very large capital gains gains tax, and therefore it's an incentive for them to stay in place and not put their homes on the market. I do think that the economics of that is such that really maybe we need to index those levels to be higher due to the 20-25% inflation we have seen just since 2020. But I'm not sure that you need to fully reduce the capital gains tax as much as the president is looking to do, or whether that will actually encourage enough people to put their homes on the market. I think the unfortunate thing is that from an optics standpoint, it really does look like it would benefit mostly wealthier Americans across the board with high incomes. And that is something that may not go over very well with the rest of Congress, and Congress would have to act to make this change. And I don't know if it's really going to encourage people to leave their homes, if that's really the reason that people are staying. People with very high value home price gains, that maybe is slightly impacting them, but it especially is impacting those with second homes. But again, is this just basically creating a boon for people who already have a large share of wealth, and will this create poor optics? I think there's a lot still to unpack here, but lower taxes in general are better. It encourages people just to make decisions based on the economics that they see, and that would be preferential in the long run. But the point of getting from here to there, we're very far from that, probably.
Okay, just one more question before we wrap up here. Do you think without this capital gains tax on home sales, could that lead to more speculative behavior or flipping in the housing market potentially?
It is possible, depending on how it's crafted. If it's a straight across the board elimination of capital gains taxes, I think there's an argument to be made, and I haven't looked directly at the data, but it does seem that it would largely benefit people who have either secondary homes or who have investment properties. And that's a discussion we should have. The lower the capital gains rate, usually the more investment activity you encourage. So that can be a boon to the overall economy. But in terms of helping your ordinary homeowner, there's already a significant deduction for your primary residence. So I'm not sure that it would actually benefit regular ordinary Americans for the most part, and it may end up mostly benefiting investors in real estate, which can have its own benefits to the economy, as I was mentioning. But I think we should be clear about what is the goal here with this change in policy.
Okay, Lydia, always great to talk to you. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Coming up, border czar Tom Homan answers questions from reporters outside the White House. Homan says the administration won't tolerate violence against ICE officers. We have that and more when we come back.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjian Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
£6 prescription glasses from Select Specs are always great value. There are no offer codes or first-time customers only. Anyone can buy them, anytime. And you can upgrade to Select Specs Express for next day delivery. And with deferred payments, you can spread the cost.
See now, pay later with Select Specs £6 specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options available at selectspecs.com/£6.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Border czar Tom Homan used strong words today about President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration. Speaking outside the White House, he said he and Trump were sick and tired of the attacks on ICE agents carrying out the president's agenda.
Our goal is to arrest everybody we can, as long, prioritizing criminal safety threats and national security threats. But I'll say it again, in sanctuary cities where our priority is now, you force us in the community to arrest a bad guy, find a bad guy. If he's with others who are in the country illegally, they're coming too. ICE agents are mothers and fathers too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day to come to work. I'm sick and tired of the attacks on ICE. President Trump's sick and tired of it. You impede an ICE officer, you're going to jail. You throw a stone, you're going to jail. If you interfere with the enforcement, you're going to jail.
Holman also criticized cities that won't cooperate with ICE. The border czar said, quote, "Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals." Hard stop. Bottom line, that is what it is. Holman's comments follow the shooting of an off-duty Customs and Border Protection officer in New York City last weekend. Both suspects are living in the U.S. illegally. Holman vowed the administration would, quote, "flood the zone with immigration and customs enforcement agents" following the shooting. After 8 years and a $2 billion renovation, the Waldorf Astoria in New York is welcoming guests once again. The iconic hotel now features 375 guest rooms and 372 private residences. The project is one of the largest preservation efforts in New York City. It involved working closely with the Landmarks Preservation Commission to maintain the hotel's 1931 design. Visitors can now enjoy stays in revamped rooms. They can also try out 3 new dining options, including the Peacock Alley Lounge and a Japanese restaurant. The hotel's managing director is hopeful about what lies ahead. Here he is.
It finally happened, right? 8 years in the making, but it's been such a great success story because everybody was waiting for it, but we had to do it absolutely right, You have to think about it. It hasn't been just a renovation. It's been a complete restoration, from the ground up. We worked on all the legacy ceilings and all the artwork, all the architectural detail. It required so many craft people to come in. It was just an incredible undertaking. But now we're left with a really gorgeous hotel and residence.
Starting September 1st, the hotel will offer 43,000 square feet of meeting and event spaces, including the renowned Grand Ballroom. A high-flying monster truck stunt turned shocking when the vehicle's wheel suddenly broke loose and went sailing into the parking lot. Here's more.
A crazy caught-on-cam moment at a monster truck event in Washington state captured a tire flying off a performing vehicle and into the parking lot. It happened at an arena in Bremerton as spectators were enjoying some monstrous motoring mayhem. As a truck came down after an impressive aerial stunt, a huge wheel broke loose and hurtled over the venue's wall and into the parking lot, where thankfully it didn't injure anyone but appeared to strike some trees, and that's not all. An image later posted on Facebook showed at least one car that was crushed by the massive runaway wheel. The event's organizers later posted a statement on the incident saying multiple cars were damaged and they were taking steps to reduce similar risks, also saying, quote, "We will always do everything we can to help further the safety of this great sport we all love." Another love of extreme sports led to a rescue operation in California when officials were called to the scene of a skydiver stuck in some power lines. The skydiver's parachute got tangled in the lines and left the man dangling and waiting for help. KOVR says rescuers coordinated with local utility companies to secure the power lines, and the skydiver was safely brought down. Crews say the man suffered only minor injuries and not, more shocking ones. Finally, more people helping people, namely heroic WLS Chicago reporter Christian Picos, who put a live lakefront report on hold when he saw a cyclist collide with a runner. Oh, shoot. Picos ran to the aid of the fallen cyclist, whom he said was okay, and refused medical aid before returning to his report.
He's walking it off, but yeah, it's just a scary situation. You got to be careful out here on the trail.
Coming up, President Trump is visiting the Federal Reserve's headquarters in Washington, D.C. this afternoon after the building has undergone a $2.5 billion renovation. Stay with us.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits 0, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens. Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump is visiting the Federal Reserve's headquarters in Washington, D.C. this afternoon after the building has undergone a $2.5 billion renovation. It costs more to insure homes across the U.S., and experts say Mother Nature is a big reason why. Scrolling on TikTok could soon stop in the U.S. That's the warning coming from the Commerce Secretary. He says this will happen if China doesn't sign off on a deal to sell the app's U.S. assets. What changes are coming to the organ transplant system after an investigation shows some donors were still showing signs of life? Jason Blair has more from the HHS organ transplant chief.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon. Thanks for staying with us. We're following the news out of Washington, D.C., where President Donald Trump is visiting the Federal Reserve headquarters today amid escalating tensions with Fed Chair Jerome Powell. For the latest, we now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent, Mari Otsu, at the White House. Good afternoon, Mari. What is the significance of this visit and what's driving the president's focus on the Fed?
Good afternoon to you, Don. This visit of President Trump's to the Fed is indeed significant as it comes amidst his mounting pressures against the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. It's rare for any president to visit the Fed, and actually President Trump is only the fourth to do so. The last time a president visited the Fed was in 2006 during George W. Bush's presidency. This 4 p.m. tour today had originally been only for Trump's staff to inspect the headquarters' costly $2.5 billion renovation. However, then late Wednesday, the White House announced that President Trump would join the tour, significantly ratcheting up the symbolism of the visit. President Trump said last week that the renovation project, the cost of which ballooned from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion, could be a, quote, fireable offense. This comes as Trump continues to demand that Jerome Powell lower the Fed's interest rate. Take a look.
I think he's doing a bad job, but he's going to be out pretty soon anyway. In eight months, he'll be out. People aren't able to buy a house. He keeps the rates too high, and probably doing it for political reasons.
Trump has been very vocal about his frustrations with Chairman Jerome Powell, whom he appointed in 2017, although the president said he has no plans for now to fire the chair. Trump has called for interest rates to drop to as low as 1%, saying it would save trillions in interest costs and boost the economy. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is calling on the central bank to conduct an investigation, not just on their monetary policy, but on everything else as well. Take a look.
The Fed has had big mission creep, and that's where a lot of the spending's going. That's why they're building these new or refurbishing these buildings. And I think they got to stay in their lane.
Some Republican officials, including Russ Vought, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, have called this Fed renovation project the Palace of Versailles, accusing Powell of a lavish project with ornate features. Don?
And Mari, how has the Fed chair responded to all this?
Powell responded to Vought last week with a letter saying the buildings haven't been updated in nearly a century and require significant structural repairs. While the administration's been pressuring Powell to lower interest rates, the Fed chair has held them steady, arguing that the Fed should be patient as it waits to see how tariff rates might affect the economy. Powell, while testifying to Congress last month, denied accusations that the renovations are lavish and ostentatious. Take a look.
There's no VPI dining room. There's no new marble. We took down the old marble. We're putting it back up. We'll have to use new marble where some of the old marble broke, but there's no new, there are no special elevators. They're old elevators that have been there.
It remains to be seen what President will do next in his pressure campaign against Jerome Powell. Today's visit could signal Trump's intent to keep the pressure on. And in breaking news, the White House confirms to NTD that President Trump will be signing an executive order to make it easier for cities to remove homeless people from the streets. Press Secretary Leavitt tells us the goal of this EO is to remove criminals to help make Americans feel safe in their communities. Back to you, Don.
Mari, thank you very much. The House of Representatives has begun its August recess, but the Senate continues to work on important nominations, including the nomination of former Congressman Mike Waltz to be the next UN ambassador. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has the details on the story.
The Senate is moving ahead with President Trump's nominations despite some pushback from lawmakers to the president's request to cancel the August recess.
And I know that President Trump has placed a keen priority on his nominees, and we will advance them as quickly as we possibly can.
This Thursday, the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee advanced the nomination of former Congressman Mike Waltz to become the next UN ambassador. He now awaits a full Senate floor vote to be confirmed.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
The Senate Judiciary Committee also advanced this Thursday the nomination of Janine Pirro to be the next U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Both votes have been partisan, and Democrats have threatened to block the appropriations process on which the Senate is behind schedule.
We can't reach agreements when Trump simply overrides them later on a strictly partisan basis. There's no trust. There's no way we can rely on Republicans' words.
The Democrats have indicated, because they're so upset over the rescissions bill last week, which, by the way, cut 1/10 of 1% of all federal spending, that somehow they can use that as an excuse to shut down the appropriations process and therefore shut down the government.
The Senate is also ready to quickly move to vote on a new Russia sanctions package.
Russia sanctions, when it's ready to go, with the right bipartisan support, which I think exists, there are 85 co-sponsors on that bill, we ought to be able to expedite consideration of that on the floor. And I'm ready to do that. Again, we're working, trying to coordinate with the White House.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune has advised senators that it is possible that he will extend the Senate session into the first week of August. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Trump is visiting the Federal Reserve headquarters in Washington, D.C. Let's take a look at that.
Job there, building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed. One of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1,
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
Our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So, any questions?
Mr. President, does the issue give you any? As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire him.
Do you think this issue, Mr. President, gives you cause to do that?
Well, I'm here just really with the chairman. He's showing us around, showing us the work. And so I don't want to get that. I don't want to be personal. I just would like to see it get finished. And in many ways, it's too bad it started. But it did start. And it's been under construction for a long time. It's going to be a real long time, because it looks like it's got a long way to go.
Yes, sir.
So.
President, are there things the chairman can say to you today that would make you back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. But other than that, what can I tell you? The country is doing really well. I just briefed the chairman on the deal we made with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit. That way they have a little bit lower tariff. And they also opened their country to free trade, which nobody thought was even a possibility. And we get a zero tariff in the free trade. We don't pay tariffs, and they're going to pay 15% on everything they send into our country, so it's great. But they put up, as you could call it, seed money. Let's call it seed money. You could call it anything you want, but it's a total of $550 billion. So nobody thought any of that was possible, and it's wonderful. And we're doing pretty well with the European Union, likewise, and we have some others. They're all really big, and our country's going to make a lot of money. We would be helped if interest rates would come down, but we're going to see how the board rules on that soon. I'd love to see them come down a lot, but we have a country that's thriving. We had a dead country 1 year ago. Today we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and we'll get this one finished.
Mr. President, you
Thank you.
your own housing on schools.
And that's President Trump at the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C., and saying that the new building cost $3.1 billion, with Fed Chair Jerome Powell disputing that. He's going to make a speech later, but in the meantime, he's touring the building. Next, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announcing today that the Department of Agriculture, or USDA, is reorganizing. The department will relocate much of its Washington, D.C. workforce to 5 regional hubs and vacate several buildings. With no more than 2,000 workers remaining in the D.C. area, Rollins said the department is refocusing its core operations to better align with supporting American farming, ranching, and forestry. The decision also aligns with President Trump's effort to reorganize and reduce the size of the federal government. Rollins assured that all critical functions of the department will continue uninterrupted. Columbia University will pay over $200 million to settle federal claims of discrimination against Jewish students and employees. The agreement follows months of controversy, protests, and suspended funding. Here are the details.
A resolution to months of conflict over campus protests at Columbia University. The university has agreed to settle with the federal government. Columbia says the settlement includes a $200 million payment to the federal government, plus an additional $21 million to resolve employment discrimination claims. In exchange, Columbia regains access to hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding that had been cut off after multiple agencies found the university failed to protect Jewish students. The Departments of Justice, Education, and Health and Human Services said Columbia has shown continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. According to Acting University President Claire Shipman, the agreement will help restore the university's research enterprise and protect its autonomy. In a letter to members of the Columbia community, she stressed the settlement is not an admission of wrongdoing, but she acknowledged the impact of anti-Semitic incidents on campus. She said the university is committed to create a safe, respectful environment, adding it will work on multiple fronts to combat all forms of hatred and intolerance. Earlier this month, the university agreed to a number of policy changes. It also cited action it has taken, including suspension or expulsion of students who violated rules during protests. Columbia will also update its definition of anti-Semitism and expand training on civil rights law. In addition, the university agreed to follow laws banning race-based hiring and admissions. President Trump praised Wednesday's deal, calling it a victory for civil liberties. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi hailed the agreement as a message that no university is above the law. According to the university, the settlement was carefully negotiated to avoid losing accreditation, federal funding, and visas for international students. Acting President Shipman says she hopes the Columbia community is ready to reset and focus again on academic rigor and respectful debate.
A man charged with attempting to assassinate President Trump last year at his Florida golf course returned to court today, once again seeking to represent himself. Ryan Ruth first made the request earlier this month during a hearing in Florida before federal judge Eileen Canyon. The request, made orally and under oath, came a day before Ruth submitted a typed letter. In the letter, he said that he and his attorneys were a million miles apart and that going forward, he would represent himself. Ruth is scheduled to stand trial in September. The judge told Ruth earlier this month that she doesn't intend to delay the September 8th start date of his trial, even if she lets him represent himself. Coming up, using smuggled AI chips from China's black market is a bad idea. That's the message from NVIDIA responding to a report that its chips have entered China illegally. We have that story and more when we return.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. You have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
On streets across America, young people are homeless, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the difference you're making in a young person's life. Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
In today's Business Matters, Uber is launching a new women's preferences feature in the US. It will allow women riders to see a women drivers option when they request a ride on demand or in advance. Riders can also set a preference option, and women drivers will have the option to request trips with women riders, including during peak earning hours. The company says testing in overseas markets generated overwhelmingly positive feedback. The pilot feature is starting in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Detroit in the next few weeks. Summer is in full swing, but many Americans are already back to school shopping. According to a new survey from the National Retail Federation, 2/3 of Americans with school-aged children started shopping for the upcoming school year this month. That's the earliest on record. The survey found half of families are hitting the stores earlier this year over concerns tariffs could drive the prices of school supplies higher. Tariffs on most of U.S. trading partners are set to rise in August. Swiss healthcare company Roche is considering selling its prescription medications directly to customers in the U.S. This is part of its talks with the U.S. government. Its CEO said the model would work for all of its medications, but did not share additional details. The consideration comes after President Trump signed an executive order directing drug makers to lower medication prices to align with what other countries are paying. Skydance Media is taking two major commitments if the FCC clears its $8 billion Paramount Global merger. In letters to the agency, Skydance said it would investigate bias at CBS News and end diversity programs. Skydance said it's committed to eliminating Paramount's diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, noting that it does not and will not have any DEI programs. On top of that, Skydance said post-merger, it would do a comprehensive review of CBS News over complaints of bias and other concerns. It would appoint an ombudsman to investigate. Skydance also said it would ensure its news and entertainment would embody a diversity of viewpoints across political and ideological spectra. People who would have tried the prebiotic soda beverage Poppy could have money coming back to them. Previous owner VNGR Beverage LCC settled a class action lawsuit that claimed Poppy was improperly marketed as, quote, gut healthy. Court records show the company did not admit to any sort of wrongdoing in the settlement, but it will refund nearly $9 million to the public. More information, including the form to fill for a payment, is found at poppysettlement.com. There's a mix of good and bad news on the job front. First-time claims for jobless benefits have fallen to their lowest level in 3 months. An estimated 217,000 initial applications for unemployment benefits were filed during the week that ended July 19th. That marks the 6th straight weekly decline. But the data also indicates it's getting harder for people to find new jobs once they become unemployed. The number of continuing claims filed by people already receiving jobless benefits increased by 4,000 for the week that ended July 12th. Average home insurance policy costs across the country have gone up in the last year, and it's due to a variety of factors. We look at the rising costs and what you can do to try to save some money.
From ravenous wildfires to devastating tornadoes, natural disasters are becoming more frequent and more intense. Last year, there were 27 confirmed weather and climate disasters in the U.S., with losses exceeding $1 billion, according to NOAA. Because of this, many home insurance companies are raising policy rates.
There are more natural disasters happening, and they're affecting more homes.
Holden Lewis with NerdWallet says they recently conducted a survey among homeowners and found 54% said their premiums have gone up in the last 12 months. These rate hikes aren't specific to certain states, it's nationwide.
They end up having to pass along some of those costs to states that might have fewer natural disasters.
State Farm recently raised home insurance rates by an average of 27.2% in Illinois. They say it's because in 2024, for every dollar they collected from policyholders, State Farm paid out $1.26. State Farm said Illinois had the second highest hailstorm damage claims last year, totaling $638 million. Telling CNN in part, accurate risk-based pricing makes sure that insurers like State Farm can pay claims during some of life's toughest moments for policyholders.
Some of the most costly natural disasters are hailstorms.
Inflation and the rising cost of supplies is also contributing to higher premiums. But Lewis says there are things you can do to help lower your rates. Adding roof trusses or upgrading your garage door can help get a better rate. Also installing fire alarms and security systems. And shop around to compare different companies' premiums.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is warning that TikTok will go dark in the U.S. if China does not approve the sale of the short-form video app. President Trump extended a deadline for Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest its U.S. assets of TikTok. In an interview, Lutnick said China or ByteDance could own a little piece, but Americans would have control of the technology and algorithm. He said if China doesn't approve the deal, TikTok will go dark, adding that those decisions are coming, quote, very soon. A deal to spin off TikTok's U.S. operations into a new U.S.-based firm stalled after trade tensions escalated. The TikTok deadline was extended to September 17th. The world's most valuable company is calling an effort to use smuggled AI chips for Chinese data centers a losing proposition. NVIDIA is addressing a report that at least $1 billion worth of its artificial intelligence chips entered China illegally. The Financial Times says it analyzed dozens of sales contracts and company files and spoke with multiple people with direct knowledge of deals. It found that NVIDIA's B200 chip has become widely available and popular in Chinese black market for American semiconductors. In response, NVIDIA said that data centers require service and support which it provides only for authorized NVIDIA products. The company warned those trying to use illegal chips, saying, quote, trying to cobble together data centers from smuggled products is a losing proposition, both technically and economically. The U.S. has restricted many computer chip sales to China, citing national security concerns, but the White House recently cleared sales to resume for NVIDIA H20 chips to China. This is a less powerful chip that was made to comply with earlier export controls. Meta has introduced new safety measures to protect kids and teens online. The parent company to Instagram says teen accounts have new safety features for direct messaging. They provide more context about the accounts they're engaging with, making it easier to distinguish if someone is a scammer. They can also see when other Instagram users joined the app, and there's a new block and report option where both actions can happen at the same time. Meta says some features were implemented in June, and teens have already used them to block and report millions of accounts. Tesla reported a double-digit drop in earnings for the second quarter following a record sales drop. The electric car company's adjusted net income was $1.4 billion. That's a drop of $419 million from 1 year ago. Sales of its best-selling Model Y and Model 3 fell 12% compared to a year ago, while sales of its more expensive cars, including the Cybertruck, plunged 52%. The drops have been attributed to Tesla CEO Elon Musk's political activities and increased competition for electric vehicles. The European Union and the Chinese Communist regime began a tense summit today, dominated by trade concerns and Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen traveled to Beijing to meet with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. Here's more.
Expectations were low for the summit in the Chinese capital. It was built to mark 50 years of diplomatic ties after weeks of escalating tension and concerns over its format. Chinese state media reported Xi told European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen that current challenges facing Europe don't come from China. He further urged the EU to adhere to open cooperation after von der Leyen earlier called for a rebalancing of trade ties. She was likely referring to the EU's trade deficit with China, which rose to a historic $360 billion last year. EU trade actions in the past year have targeted Chinese exports of EVs, among other goods. Its officials have also complained about Chinese industrial overcapacity. At the talks, the Europeans are expected to raise topics including electric vehicles and China's rare earth export controls that disrupted supply chains worldwide.
America's first communications network, the U.S. Postal Service, is celebrating its 250th birthday this weekend. The Second Continental Congress established a postal system on July 26, 1775, 1 year before the Declaration of Independence. Today, the Postal Service has 640,000 employees, with more than half of them letter carriers. The USPS is commemorating the birthday with 2 sets of specialty stamps. One features an aerial view of a mail carrier walking her route in a busy town through the 4 seasons. The other set features the first ever Postmaster General, Benjamin Franklin. The stamps are part of a special booklet titled Putting a Stamp on the American Experience. A federal court in Texas said Verizon Wireless must pay $175 million for damages for violating an inventor's patent rights. The jury's decision in favor of Headwater Research comes just months after the firm secured a $278 million verdict in a patent dispute against Samsung in the same court. A Verizon spokesperson said that the verdict was simply not supported by the facts and that the company will appeal. Headwater said its patented technology allows wireless devices to reduce data usage and network congestion, extend battery life by decreasing power consumption, and enable users to stay connected. The company claims it's shared information about its technology with Verizon under a non-disclosure agreement and that Verizon's devices and networks infringed Headwater's patents. Verizon denied the allegations and argued that the patents were invalid. The historic Waldorf Astoria in New York City has undergone a full makeover. It took nearly a decade. Now it's opened its doors, and for the first time, you can own a part of the hotel. Here's more.
They call it the greatest of them all for a reason. It's because, some hotels, they just speak to you. And this hotel is an incredible soul. Imagine through over a century of tradition and all of that. So in essence, you walk in, you feel the energy already when you first walk in. And then now it's a hotel that is moving forward, that is writing a new chapter in the future.
A landmark on New York's Park Avenue.
The Waldorf Astoria closed in 2017 for a full-scale restoration and renovation. Key elements of the hotel were preserved and historic artifacts remain. This includes the hand-cut marble Wheel of Life mosaic and a bronze clock that was commissioned by Queen Victoria. Managing Director Luigi Romagnello describes some of the work.
It's been such a great success story because everybody was waiting for it, but we had to do it absolutely right. You have to think about it. It hasn't been just a renovation; it's been a complete restoration. From the ground up. We worked on all the legacy ceilings and all the artwork, all the architectural detail. It required so many craft people to come in. It was just an incredible undertaking.
One major overhaul involved the rooms. The total number was slashed from 1,400 to 375 larger guest rooms and suites and 372 private residences.
So this is the very first time that you can actually own a piece of the Waldorf Astoria in New York. Before, it never happened before, so it's very, very exciting times.
The renovation project was one of the largest preservation and adaptive reuse efforts in New York City. The CEO of parent company Hilton on Thursday expressed optimism about the hospitality sector, noting early signs of rising demand.
President Trump is now speaking at the Federal Reserve headquarters in Washington, D.C. We're going to tune into that.
$5 billion. So we want to get the rates down, but we also want to get the Fed building finished. So I met with the contractors, we toured it with the chairman, and we had a very good tour, and we'll talk to you about it sometime. But Tim and I, we sort of understand what happened.
Too expensive. Bottom line is this, that Americans deserve to become first-time home buyers. President Trump has created the best economy in the world. The one thing that would make it better is lower interest rates. Full employment is even more possible. Wages rise faster as interest rates come down when your employment is at 4.1% because of your leadership. We have revenues coming in at record-breaking, maybe last month even more revenue coming in than bills going out, which is remarkable.
They found $26 billion. They said, where did that come from? Nobody, I think that's been many, many decades since that happened.
I can't remember that.
They found $26 billion last month, and they said, where did that come from? I said, why don't you try the tariffs? And it was true. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, and our country is doing great, and we have no inflation, and the numbers, the job, everything is good. The one thing we have to do is get housing prices down and the interest rates down so people can buy the house, because they're all making money, but they can't get the interest rate down. We have to.
Amen.
All right. And he's been my friend for a long time.
You've been on a number of construction sites. Did you see mismanagement going on or funds that aren't?
Well, I see a very luxurious situation taking place. Let's put it that way. And I was given a very nice tour by the head of construction. And, look, if you look over here, they're trying to open up the basement. When you open up a basement, first of all, it's the worst space. Always a basement is the worst space in a building. And it's also the most expensive space to build. And especially here because you have a water line. They're going down into the water, so they have to build what's called a reverse bathtub. The water has to be kept out. It's very expensive construction. So it would have been good if they didn't build it. Would have been good if they didn't do certain other things. If you look at the kind of protection in the hall, have you been able to get in the hall? You saw the protection of plywood. I mean, that was a lot of money just to protect it for a period of time. I would have done it very gingerly and easily and not have to spend, millions of dollars on protection. And there are things that could have been different. Look, there's always Monday morning quarterbacks. I don't want to be that. I want to help them get it finished. It's been going on for years, and I want to help them get it finished. And what we really want to do, and I think I can speak for Tim, and I think I can speak for the entire Senate, we can speak for everybody, frankly, is we want to see interest rates come down. Our country is booming, and the interest rates is a final little notch. And if you look at Europe, they've lowered 11 times in a short period of time. We've lowered 0. And, they are competition, although we're in the process of probably making a very good deal with them, too. They want to make a deal very badly. So we're making a deal. We just completed our deal with Indonesia. We just completed our deal with the Philippines. We're making unbelievable deals, and the money is pouring in. We want to get interest rates down.
But on interest rates, at some point, does the level of interest rates now slow economic growth?
Yeah, it never helps it if it's high. Never helps it. Well, it's already as good as we're doing. Think of how well we'd be doing. It would be like a rocket ship. As good as we're doing, we'd do better if we had lower interest rates. And we should. We're prime. Don't forget, without us, the whole world collapses. So we should have the lowest interest rate because, you can talk about Switzerland, you can talk about wonderful countries, no debt, but without us, everything collapses. We should have the lowest interest rate. And if you took it down 3 points, not a little bit, but 3 points, if you got us down to 1, we would save more than $1 trillion, basically with just a paper transfer. You wouldn't be cutting costs of anything, you wouldn't be building anything. Just a move of the hand saying we're going to lower interest rates, you would save $1 trillion a year. And there's nothing you can do to save that kind of money. Well, we had a little talk about it, and I thought it was a very productive talk. He'll be able to tell you at his next meeting, but I will say that he did say the country is doing really well. And the country is really doing well.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
How would you describe your talk with him? Would you say that the energy was tense? Did you come?
No, I didn't think it was tense. No, I thought we had a good meeting. No, there was no tension. There was no tension. I think he had more tension with my great senator to the right. He's a pretty tough cookie. He was, you might say.
Listen, bottom line is we had an honest, candid conversation about some of the overruns at this building. We had it in my banking committee, and he said we were wrong, and turns out we were right. Thank God President Trump and his team took enough time to dig into some of the details, and the details are clear. We need to get this project done. We would like to keep it where it is or a little lower, but at the end of the day, the point is that instead of talking about interest rates, instead of talking about first-time home buyers, instead of talking about the heat in our economy, that's a good thing, we're talking about an overrun on the Federal Reserve building as opposed to the Federal Reserve objective of lowering and keeping our economy full.
As an example, they built parking spots under a building next door.
Really expensive.
That's very expensive. When you're starting to build parking lots, underground parking lots, that's a very expensive thing. A lot of people I know, they park their car and they walk a block or 2 blocks or something. But it is a very expensive thing. But that is what it is, and that's okay.
Is this project a fireable offense?
What?
Is this project a fireable offense for Jerome Powell?
Look, I would love to see it completed. I don't want to put that in this category. It's a very complex thing that could have been made simple. I built a great hotel, and the great hotel that everybody in this group knows very well, it's called the old post office, and it's a much bigger project than this, and I spent $200 million building it. And it was taken down to the steel, for the most part, taken down, you've seen it go up. And I built it quickly, and I built it for $200 million. That was a much bigger job than this. I spent $200 million, and it's got marble bathrooms, the top fixtures, the best of everything, all brand new. So, this is a very expensive job. I don't know. It got out of control. And that happens. It's a shame.
Are you negotiating on auto tariffs? Your auto tariffs.
No, I'm not negotiating on auto tariffs.
Does the EU looking at 15% like Japan?
Well, it depends. What Japan did is they brought down their tariffs. They gave us $550 billion because they didn't want to pay 20. They were 28%. And they gave us $550 billion up front. 100%, 500. We get 90, they get 10. 90%, they get 10. And there's no payment. It's not a loan or anything. It's a signing bonus, I call it. But they gave us $550 billion and took down the tariffs a little bit. And then they agreed to open their economy to everybody. This was not easy. This took, a lot of people walked out of rooms and things. Sometimes they walked out of rooms, went back to Japan. Right. I said, where are they? They went back to Japan, and then they called and they said, can we make a deal? They came back a couple of times this happened. This was, as you know, it was over a period of months, and ultimately they agreed to open their economy. Now, the opening of the economy is worth more than $550 billion, the payment that they made. It's worth more. So between that and the payment, we reduced it down to 15%, but they were at about 28%, and then they bought it down, basically.
But could other countries buy it down?
Yeah, I would let other countries buy it down, sure.
Mr. President, do you feel better or worse about your relationship with Bench Evan after this meeting?
I feel good about it. I mean, look, I have one dispute, and the dispute is there could be some things with money and, where it comes from, how it's come from, how it's printed, where it's printed, all of the standard things with the Fed. But I just want to see one thing happen. Very simple. Interest rates have to come down. If the interest rates don't come down, we're knocking it out of the park with high interest rates. If interest rates come down, then that final little element kicks in, that's housing. And the sad part is that people, wonderful young people, young couples starting off, they can't get a mortgage because the rates are too high. Tim knows that better than anybody, I think.
But Mr. President, if the rates are hurting families in the country, why let that keep going for another 8 months? Why not just fire the
Because to do that is a big move, and I just don't think it's necessary. And I believe that he's going to do the right thing. I believe that the chairman is going to do the right thing. I mean, it may be a little too late, as the expression goes, but I believe he's going to do the right thing. The fact is, it's so big what's taking place in America, where the king of Saudi Arabia says you have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I thought you were dead 1 year ago. I thought we were dead. I just left NATO, as you know. They're agreeing to pay 5%. We're not paying anything. We send them they pay for 100% of everything now for the war, Ukraine. But I just left NATO, and every one of those leaders said, every country, they said, and very smart countries, very successful countries, frankly, and every one of them said you have the hottest country in the world. We did that over a period of a year, less than a year. I mean, if you think, they say a year ago we were dead, and today, so I'm here 6 months, and we did it over, and we had the help of men like this and people like standing right behind me. They're
leadership matters.
They're great professionals. They really are. They're great professionals. And in a short period of time, we made it the hottest country in the world. With all of that being said, we'd like to see, we can always do better, and we can do better if interest rates come down. Good job you do. You do a nice job. I watch you a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. President. Do you have a name in mind to replace the chairman?
I do.
Or one person?
2 people. Maybe 3.
Any clues?
I'd pick him, but I think he's not leaving the Senate.
No, sir, I'm not.
I'd pick Tim.
Thank you.
No, there's no pressure. No. We want to have, his term comes up soon. I think he's going to do the right thing. Everybody knows what the right thing is. Even people that believed in, the higher rates, they're all on board. They all want to see the interest rates come down. It's very important.
Mr. President, if he doesn't do the right thing and cut interest rates, as he said, will you don't consider?
I don't think we're going to do that. I don't think so.
Investigate the newly declassified documents like ever.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing. I have great respect for Tulsi and the documents they found on President Obama. Frankly, it was an Obama thing, but it was the people that worked under him also working with him. And no, it's a very, very serious thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, everybody.
That was President Trump touring the Federal Reserve renovations, saying that it's a little bit expensive because he's comparing it to past projects that he's done, which were bigger, he says, that only cost $200 million compared to $2.8 billion of the renovations, and saying that the U.S. economy is doing great, other countries' leaders calling it a hot country, and the only thing he would like to see is interest rates come down. He says he believes Fed Chair Jerome Powell will do the right thing. Okay, on to markets. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ hit record highs today, boosted by strong earnings from Alphabet, which lifted optimism around AI stocks. But Tesla fell sharply after warning of tough quarters ahead. So positive momentum was also driven by progress in U.S. trade talks with Japan and the EU. As well, better than expected earnings reports helped. Also helping is signs of economic resilience. However, the Dow declined, weighed down by drops in United Health, IBM, Honeywell, and American Airlines. And that's it for today's Business Matters. Up next, what changes are coming to the organ transplant system after an investigation shows some donors were still showing signs of life? Jason Blair has more from the HHS organ transplant chief.
go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it. Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride with being part of these multi-generational businesses. But there's also a significant amount of pressure. My senior year of high school, my dad made the decision that this world no longer needed him in it. I don't know if he was overwhelmed by the bills and checks that weren't going to be coming in because of the strawberries dying off, but it breaks my heart that my dad made a permanent decision for a temporary issue. Don't feel like you have to go through it alone.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
In the mornings, that's my time. Watching the sun come up, I can have a cup of coffee and exercise if I want to. It helps me start the day with a sense of gratitude.
Yay!
Every day is a new opportunity. Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love, your mind.
After a troubling probe into the organ transplant system, the Department of Health and Human Services says reforms are coming. The HHS organ transplant chief says some changes will include more education, better reading of a donor's brain activity, and abilities to halt procedures if concerns are seen. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the awareness of these reports is in itself a good thing. It means that our oversight is working.
A probe by the HHS found that some organ transplants were being approved from patients who might not have been confirmed dead. In a study of over 350 cases in which over 100 patients either showed signs of life or there was no recorded time of death when the transplant took place. One case was told at a House Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee hearing on Tuesday.
Both hospital staff and the staff from the Organ Procurement Organization noted potential signs of consciousness and discomfort from the patient. Nevertheless, the process proceeded. The surgeon ultimately refused to operate, stating they felt the operation would be inhumane and unethical. The patient ultimately recovered and was later discharged from the hospital and is still alive today.
The HHS ordered changes to the organ transplant and procurement system, saying these reforms are essential to restoring trust, ensuring informed consent, and protecting the rights and dignity of prospective donors and their families. Dr. Lynch highlights some planned action.
And that really encompasses better education for the families, for the hospital teams, making sure that those teams and the families are able to call for a halt if they see concerning features, and making sure that that group, the OPO, is doing a good job, understanding what is actually happening in the patient's brain.
And then on Wednesday, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ordered the removal of mercury from flu vaccines, specifically thimerosal, which is roughly 50% mercury by weight. Kennedy says injecting any amount of mercury into children when safe, mercury-free alternatives exist defies common sense and public health responsibility. Today, we put safety first. Thimerosal was removed from many vaccines starting in 1999. Kennedy says he hopes other countries can follow the U.S. by also removing thimerosal. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Florida czar Tom Homan used strong words today about President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration, Speaking outside the White House, he said he and Trump were sick and tired of the attacks on ICE agents carrying out the president's agenda.
Our goal is to arrest everybody we can, prioritizing criminal safety threats and national security threats. But I'll say it again, in sanctuary cities where our priority is now, you force us in the community to arrest a bad guy, find a bad guy. If he's with others who are in the country illegally, they're coming too. ICE agents are mothers and fathers too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day to come to work. I'm sick and tired of the attacks on ICE. President Trump's sick and tired of it. You impede an ICE officer, you're going to jail. You throw a stone, you're going to jail. If you interfere with the enforcement, you're going to jail.
Holman also criticized cities that won't cooperate with ICE. The border czar said, quote, "Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. Hard stop." Bottom line is that's what it is. Holman's comments follow the shooting of an off-duty Customs and Border Protection officer in New York City last weekend. Both suspects are living in the U.S. illegally. Holman vowed the administration would, quote, "flood the zone with immigration and customs enforcement agents" following the shooting. Britain is at risk of being a dumping ground for goods linked to forced labor from countries like China. So says a new report by the UK Parliament's human rights watchdog, which calls for laws against modern slavery to be tightened and in line with the standards of the European Union and the United States. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more on this.
Could Britain be flooded by goods made from forced labor? A new report, Forced Labor in UK Supply Chains, warns current laws make this inevitable and highlights human rights abuses are pervasive in key sectors. To solve this, the UK's Joint Committee on Human Rights, made up of British politicians, is proposing import bans for goods linked to forced labour, with the view to bring UK standards in line with the approach taken by the US and in the EU. Former President Biden in 2021 banned imports from China's Xinjiang region over forced labour concerns. The report cited estimates that globally, 20% of garments made with cotton have been linked to forced labour in China's Xinjiang region, made by Uyghurs and other persecuted minority groups. Fish supply chains are also at risk. Evidence suggests North Korean workers are being forced to work on Chinese fishing vessels. In some cases, these North Koreans do not set foot on land for over 10 years. Fish caught are processed in China and sold on markets in Europe and America. The UK imported $415 million worth of fish from China in 2023, making China the UK's second biggest supplier. Other at-risk goods include processed tomatoes labelled as Italian but likely originating from Xinjiang, solar panels made in China, and critical minerals mined by children in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who are exposed to toxic dust with no protective equipment. The British politicians behind the report call on the government to implement mandatory human rights due diligence and penalties for firms that break these requirements. The report said Britain's approach has fallen behind other key markets like the EU and US, which means the UK is at risk of becoming a dumping ground for goods that cannot be sold elsewhere. The report also urged the government to avoid entering into negotiations with countries participating in state-imposed forced labour. Lord David Alton, chairman of the Joint Committee on Human Rights, said it's intolerable in the 21st century that the UK profits on the broken backs of slave labour, from Uyghur servitude in Xinjiang to child labour in the cobalt mines of the Congo, and called for meaningful action from the government. A government spokesperson said they have launched a review into the UK's approach to responsible business conduct as part of their trade strategy, and will consider the Joint Committee's recommendations. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
And that's it for today. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.